about this whole thing. And I'm going to wrap it up with this one thing here real quick. But Dave Ramsey again, because Dave Ramsey really is one of those rich guys who doesn't want to pay more tax. And he definitely doesn't want to pay his employees more. And he's definitely, like we said at the beginning, he's one of these guys that you ever see interviews with him or anything, no one ever challenges him. He surrounds himself with sycophants who suck up to him and tell him what he wants to hear, just like Donald Trump and Elon Musk and all these guys. And so they have a lot of really bad ideas because no one's ever there to correct them or challenge them. And so we're going to watch him.
Well, it's certainly not, it's not a discussion happening by any means. You know, like there's not really any back and forth that happens. It's all just a series of, like, even when he co-hosts, I don't understand why you're co-hosting with people whose only job is to say your opinion.
Well, tell you how great you are.
You don't need two people for that.
Yeah. No, but that's what they're there for. Is they're to reaffirm it, to tell him how great he is and reaffirm his opinion, because then it sounds like, oh, if you're a listener and you're not thinking critically of it, you're sitting there going, oh, well, Dave must be right about everything. He must be the Messiah, right? That's why they have to tie it up to religion all the time. But let's see if we can get this going. So
right.
Dave is on Fox Business, and they're talking about socialism again. And I want to do this. Capitalism versus socialism. But notice how they never really describe what these things are. They just, one is good and one is bad. That's all you ever hear.
Because doing the right thing attracts customers, and doing the right thing keeps customers. Rather than doing the thing for me, I can serve in the marketplace. That's real capitalism. Capitalism that's all about me, kind of an Ayn Rand kind of a thing, and selfishness, how much can I get, no rules, let me go, just plunder. That's not capitalism. That's anarchy.
Although, don't you feel like that anarchy type capitalism that you talk about is hard to achieve, because if you are running that kind of a business, someone's going to set up shop right next door to you and run it just a little bit better.
Okay, so here's that argument there. Capitalism, laissez-faire capitalism balances itself out, essentially. Okay, so if I run a business, right, and I have a product and I'm selling it and I treat my employees like crap and I develop an inferior product, right? And it's not very good, right? Their argument is, well, I'm not going to last because Lacey's is going to show up and she's going to set up a business that creates a superior product and she's going to treat her workers better and drive me out of business, right? That's a fine fantasy. What usually happens is I develop a monopoly. And if Lacey tries to set up a business, I buy her out, I buy her patents, I sue her into oblivion, I run smash campaigns again, I do everything I can to stop her from creating that business. Or I set up patents that make it impossible for her. Or I tie her up in litigation. And since I have a monopoly and I have all the money already, what is she going to do? That's what happens all the time in capitalism. That's why you have so few companies that control so much, because anybody who tries to compete with them, they just demolish. They just steamroll right over. I mean, how many different brands of phone are there? That's basically what? Sony, Samsung, and an iPhone?
Basically.
Yeah. How many different kind of real car companies are there? A lot of them are owned by the same people. You know? So it's one of those things where this is a ridiculous concept. That, oh yeah, they're just, somebody will just come in and start a better business. Well, by the time they get to that point, I mean, they haven't made enough money. I can just destroy them financially. Or buy them out. So this is a nonsense argument. This is like a deregulation argument of the market. If there was no regulation, it would all just work out. Yeah, sure it would. And there wouldn't be lead in the water either.
A little bit more customer-centric, a little bit more quality-centric, and you ultimately can keep a business like that running in this country.
The marketplace will purge the crooks eventually. it naturally does that.
Okay. You hear that, Lace? If you run an illegal business, the marketplace will purge you. Because nobody in the history of this country has ever...
I sort of feel like I just got like shot out like lava out of a volcano or something. I don't know. How's that work?
No, because no crook ever gets away with it in the United States because they're rich. Never happens. The market corrects.
Brother.
The natural market corrects and takes care of it. I mean, they don't realize that they're making the anti-capitalist argument by saying, well, see, these things never happen when they do all the time. I mean, yeah, Jeffrey Epstein got away with it. Yeah, Jeffrey Epstein got away with that for so long, not because he was rich. Get the fuck out. It's because he was rich. Because he had a lot of affluence and power. Because he had money. Donald Trump gets away with stuff because he has money and affluence and power. Elon Musk gets away with stuff because, people do it all the time. Dave Ramsey gets away with illegal employment practices all the time.
The problem is, though, that the extreme socialistic type people will use someone who's a crook, and going, yay, capitalism, as an example of capitalism. And I keep trying to remind folks, that's not capitalism, that's a crook.
I'm glad you brought that up, because we heard before, and I think it helped President Obama get elected. Unfeathered capitalism. They can't control themselves. The greed is too great.
Exactly.
Even Alan Greenspan sort of hinted at that. And that kind of was the political fodder, if you will, that got President Obama elected. And my great fear is that somehow that resurrects itself with the shaky stock market going into the election, with the shaky economy. This is the worst post-recession recovery we've ever had. And people saying simply doesn't work. We got to try something different.
Well, when the candidates continue to tell people that the way you're going to prosper is we're going to solve wealth inequality, rather than the way you solve wealth inequality is go become wealthy.
Yeah.
when the candidates keep beating that drum, then you have a segment of the population.
Okay. So there it was. So the way to solve wealth inequality is become wealthy. That's why
the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
That's why there's so many wealthy people. We broke this down last time. There are only like 400 billionaires in the United States. And they're all the people on the Forbes 400 list, right?
Mm-hmm.
And only 0.25% of them are African American. And if you were thinking Oprah, good job. You're right, it's Oprah. The rest of them are white. And most of them inherited some or all of their wealth. So this idea that you just become wealthy, well, how do you do that if you don't have an education? How do you do that if you don't have health care and you have medical problems? How do you do that when 80...
Right, it's already completely stacked against you.
Right. So his whole thing is the old Republican, we're not a country of haves and have-nots, we're a country of haves and soon-to-haves, which as an English teacher makes no sense logically, practically, or grammatically.
Right. No, doesn't make any sense at all.
Right. So basically what it ends up being is we don't want the taxes. We want to pay the lower taxes when we're rich. We want to have all the advantages. You should just be able to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. And the whole selling point is the game is rigged, which is going to make it so sweet when you win. Even though you're not going to win. Because there's no solution here for how do you become wealthy. You just become wealthy. You just do it. How? You got to have money. You got to have money to start out with. So the whole thing is just a shell game, but it all comes down to this: is essentially when they scream socialism, they're not actually talking about socialism in that heightened sense. They're talking about policies that are more socialistic in their ideas. But to do that, the main one is what they're really scared of is having to pay their fair share of taxes. Because they know when they do that, wages will go up, and then they'll have to pay more for their employees, and they'll lose a lot of their power. Because they'll have to be contributing more back to the system. But right now, they contribute less than the rest of us. So that's essentially what they're talking about, and that's the whole spiel and the whole game. We can argue about capitalism, if that's better than socialism and all that jazz. If somebody wants to email us and have an argument, we'll invite somebody on and we can have that discussion. That's fine. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, is what we're really talking about when it comes to personal finance from you as an individual is, if you want to be in a position where you have more opportunity, you have to take it. And the way you take it in this country is by voting. And you have to vote for stuff that's in your best interest, not in the best interest of the wealthy guy. Right? So that woman calling in, I'm an everyday millionaire, right? Which means probably half of it's in her house and some of it's in her retirement savings, and she's living off that. It's like, yeah, I'm sure she worked a long time and saved money to build that. She also, I'm guessing, is a white woman, so she had all the advantages of the color of her skin, and being, in a society where black people were suppressed and Native Americans and Hispanics and Asians were suppressed for years, right? But at the same time, she's had the advantages. She's there now. And to sit there and go, well, I don't like the idea of taxes and all this stuff. I don't like the idea that my kids are saying that they support that. That's fine. But the bottom line is, you're missing, how is it that you got here? The money you want to give away or don't want to give away, how did you actually get it? Right? That's where I think people miss the point.